Why did the people of Portlock, Alaska, abandon their town overnight? Was it purely economic hardship, or did something darker, more malevolent drive them away? Newly uncovered footage reveals a towering figure lurking deep in the native Alaskan wilderness, a figure that matches reports from decades past. Was it Nantianak, the local urban legend? And if so, has it returned? Welcome to Parks Unseen. I'm your host, Liam Wolf. Tonight, we investigate a report hidden between the pages of the National Park Service's Lost Archives, a newly unearthed incident report that may finally shed some light on the centuries-old mystery of this Alaskan ghost town. A report that practically confirms something we true believers have suspected all along. Something terrifying has claimed Portlock as its territory. Date: July 9th, 1983. Case ID number 224. Location: Portlock, Alaska. Time: 1:30 p.m. Reporting officer: U.S. Forest Service Officer J. Travis. Incident report summary: an alleged sighting of an unknown predator that terrorized a group of teenage campers, verified by Forest Service Officer J. Travis. Details of the encounter: at 7:30 a.m., I received a call from the local Alaskan police to investigate a potential bear attack at Portlock. Apparently, a group of teenagers trespassed to camp near one of the abandoned canneries and called for help when something began stalking them. I heard the tension in the dispatcher's voice. Bear attacks are rare, but predictable. Whatever happened out there wasn't that simple. I arrived 90 minutes later by boat at the village of Nanwalek. Since the Kenai Peninsula falls under my jurisdiction, I was the one they contacted for wildlife threats. The teens were being treated for minor injuries, and I interviewed them one by one. Their stories were all over the place, still fueled by panic, but one thing was clear. Whatever they saw last night, it wasn't a bear. They described being startled by loud banging on the walls of the cannery. Whatever was outside walked on two legs and circled the building, seemingly looking for an entry point. One camper swore he heard it breathing heavily on the other side of the walls. At first, they thought it might be a bear, but bears don't walk upright and they don't breathe like that. Slow, deep, like something too large for the woods. One of the kids, barely whispering, shushed the others, hoping the creature would lose interest if they stayed quiet. But the footsteps didn't stop. They only grew louder, heavier, until they felt the vibration of each step on the floor beneath them. In the dark, one of them pulled out a CB radio and called the police. "We need help," he said. "We're stuck here. Something's outside. It's trying to get in." Minutes passed. The creature didn't leave. It kept pacing, snorting like it was sniffing them out. When the footsteps moved toward the front of the building, the kids broke out the silence and slipped out the back exit, flashlights off, hoping to lose it in the forest. The thing followed. Branches and dried leaves cracked behind them as they tore through the woods in a blind panic. One camper claimed it got so close he could feel the heat rolling off its body, a thick, sour warmth like rotting meat and wet fur. Another swore he heard it grunt, as if a predator determined to catch its prey. They didn't stop running until they spotted headlights cutting through the trees, a police cruiser. Desperate, they bolted toward the road, nearly getting hit in the process. Whatever had been following them stayed at the tree line, just beyond the reach of the lights. But the smell lingered. Even after they scrambled into the back seat, urging the officers to drive, they could still smell it. Thick and foul, like something dead was watching them. I didn't want to believe them. I knew the local legend. A Bigfoot-like creature is said to walk the Alaskan forests, but it was just a story, or so I thought. But those kids, if you could see the look in their eyes, the way their hands trembled, it was pure terror. So I decided to investigate the campsite myself. When I got to Portlock, the place was deathly quiet. The rusting cannery stood against the tree line. The air was thick and reeked of wet fur and something else, a metallic odor that clung to the back of my throat. I circled the building and the smell grew stronger. As I stepped around the corner, I froze. There, in the dirt, were footprints. They were twice the size of a grown man's, nearly 18 inches by my estimation. The thick, steel wall where the creature had struck was punctured inward. Whatever did this had immense strength. I went through the belongings the campers had left and found a camcorder. I rewound the tape and played it back. The footage was shaky, but for a brief moment I saw it. A shadow across the window from where I was standing. It stood at least 10 feet tall, and its howl cut through the panic screams of the campers. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard in my life. I feared what I might find, but I followed the trail of footsteps away from the cannery. I swore I could hear my heartbeat, and each step I took felt louder than it should have. As I delved deeper into the woods, I spied another set of footprints to my side, slowly converging towards the direction I was heading. It was fresher than the prints I was tracking. Then it hit me. The creature was just circling back. A chill ran down my spine. Then suddenly, I heard the most terrifying sound from beyond the tree line. A low, guttural howl, just as the kids described it. It was so loud it felt like I was standing just a few feet from the source. I felt the vibration in my chest before the sound reached my ears. It almost sounded like a man, only it was primal and ancient. The shadows were so thick I had no choice but to get closer. My instinct screamed to run, but I willed myself to stay still. For a brief moment, I saw a glimpse of it. A figure so massive, with shoulders wider than any man's. The light briefly touched its face, and I saw its eyes. A deep amber color. It had a wild look, but somehow with a hint of intelligence. And the smell, musky, rancid, as if the woods themselves had rotted around it. I held my breath until it slipped back deeper into the forest. I counted to 20, turned back, and ran as fast as I could. I didn't stop until I reached the boat. My hands were throbbing in pain, clutching something tightly. I looked down and was shocked to see that somehow I'd held onto the camcorder. I didn't stick around after that. I immediately left the area and advised local police to restrict access to Portlock indefinitely, or at least until a thorough investigation with proper gear could be carried out. This report is submitted for official documentation by U.S. Forest Service Officer Jay Travis from Alaska. There's a small piece of notebook paper stapled to this report, with a handwritten note dated a few weeks later. It says, "Unfortunately, no one was willing to spend resources investigating a ghost town, so the case was officially closed as a bear attack. Officer Travis." The camcorder footage, along with Officer Jay Travis's report, was unearthed in a mislabeled box within the National Park Service's archives. Remarkably, the tape remained intact despite its age. Upon discovery, I consulted experts in video forensics to authenticate the footage. We confirmed the tape's origin from the early 1980s, aligning with the reported date of the incident. The absence of digital manipulation and the consistency of environmental details further support its legitimacy. Unfortunately, we couldn't obtain permission to share the audio or video footage in its entirety, as it would reveal identifying characteristics of the young teens involved. But what we can show you is enough to make your blood run cold. Viewing this footage for the first time was deeply unsettling. I could feel the fear of the campers, as if I were holding the camera myself. And when the figure finally appeared, my heartbeat started racing. It challenged everything I thought I knew about the Portlock legends. What shook me the most was the consistency between this encounter and all other sightings reported over the decades. Between massive footprints, physical damages, and descriptions of its appearance, It couldn't have been a coincidence. Upon further analysis of the camcorder footage, the shadowy figure reflects light in a way that doesn't match any known human or animal physiology. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropology in the Department of Biological Sciences at Idaho State University, has reviewed similar evidence from Alaska's most remote regions. His research on footprint morphology suggests a creature with unique adaptations for rugged environments, anatomical features that no known bear species exhibits. Brown bears, the most common large predator in southern Alaska, rarely walk upright, and when they do, their movements are clumsy and short. Their stride length on two legs is typically much shorter than what's captured in the footage. Even the largest subspecies, the Kodiak bear, displays a distinct swaying motion when upright, unlike the fluid, deliberate gait seen here. More importantly, neither species could leave the deep, uniform tracks described in the original police report. Whatever was outside the cannery that night wasn't just a bear standing on its hind legs. It moved with precision inconsistent with what we know of the region's wildlife. Another anomaly is the physical damage to the steel wall of the cannery. Local wildlife experts confirmed that no known predator active in Alaskan territory in the early 80s could have left punctures that deep and defined. Larry Beans Baxter, a Bigfoot investigator who has personally conducted expeditions into Portlock, points out that these signs of aggression align closely with eyewitness accounts from the 1940s, when residents abandoned the town. They feared a creature that hunts humans. Officially, the 1983 incident was labeled as a bear attack, yet records indicate no physical evidence of bears were found at the scene. It adds to an alarming pattern of similar wildlife incidents in the area, where local police reports from the 1970s and 1980s that detailed unusual encounters and disappearances near Portlock vanished from public archives. Larry Beans Baxter claims that former residents who have come forward about their own strange encounters and creature sightings were pressured to stay silent. In the 2021 docuseries Alaskan Killer Bigfoot, the production team conducted interviews with local elders, particularly from the Nanwalek and Port Graham communities, describing threats and intimidation from officials if they spoke openly about the strange things happening in the ghost town. Additionally, during the filming of Alaskan Killer Bigfoot, a team of investigators recorded unexplained cries echoing through the forest.
It totally sounded like a person whistling.
Sound analysts concluded that these noises did not match any known animal calls native to Alaska. So what could have been making those disturbing sounds? Hunters in the Nanwalek region, just miles from Portlock, still report finding massive footprints and feeling an eerie sense of being watched. One anonymous hunter described an encounter where his camp was circled by something walking on two legs, similar to the experience that the teenage campers described in the 1983 incident report. In early 2019, a retired couple in Washington state stumbled upon massive tracks in the snow. Each measured 23 inches across with a stride of 35 inches. Steve Meacham, who shared the discovery online, was convinced they weren't made by any ordinary animal.
It's a site in Medical Lake that stopped Steve Meacham and his wife in their tracks.
We saw that and it says, yeah, hit the brakes, and said, oh, we gotta get pictures of this. This is cool.
They snapped these photos of these mysterious 2-foot-long snow prints Meacham says are just too big to belong to humans.
If it turned out to be something else, so be it. But I believe that it could possibly be Bigfoot.
Meacham posted these photos to Facebook and the post has gone viral. Some speculate they could have been left by a snowshoer or another creature such as a moose, but he's convinced they belong to none other than Bigfoot himself.
I see two prints. I've never seen a moose walk and step, and not show signs of a four-legged creature.
While skeptics suggested everything from a moose to a wayward snowshoer, others saw the prints as undeniable evidence of Bigfoot. Even the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife got involved, suggesting the tracks were caused by post-holing, when hikers sink deep into the snow. But for Meacham, the mystery remains. "I'll be a believer until they prove he's not real," he said, as Bigfoot investigators arrived to examine the prints for themselves. A strange set of footprints frozen atop an Alaskan ice floe has fueled speculation about what or who left them behind. The four-toed tracks, discovered in Denali National Park, appeared to be imprinted on top of the ice rather than sunk into it, an unusual case that quickly sparked debate. Park officials attributed the tracks to a wolf, explaining that snow compressed under its paws while strong winds cleared away the surrounding flakes. But skeptics weren't convinced. Many noted the prints formed a near-perfect straight line, resembling a bipedal gait rather than a wolf's typical stride. Others pointed out the size and shape and why no claw marks were visible. Despite the National Park Service's explanation, the discovery has left many wondering, was this really just a natural illusion or evidence of something lurking in Alaska's frozen wilderness? Why are authorities so quick to dismiss these cases? Some researchers suggest that acknowledging such an entity would open them up to questions they aren't prepared to answer. If there truly is an unknown predator stalking the Alaskan wilderness, what else might they be hiding? And then there are the sudden disappearances and deaths. There had been reports in remote regions like Portlock, which followed a disturbing pattern. People vanished or found dead, often near areas where unusual sounds and large footprints are reported. One such case dating back to the 1930s, before the town was abandoned, a prospector searching for gold in the region was found mutilated near a river. His injuries were described as unnatural and beyond what any known predator could inflict. Could there be a connection? For over 80 years, former residents and nearby villagers have told stories about Nantianak, a mysterious, Bigfoot-like creature said to stalk the Alaskan wilderness. According to local folklore, this creature was responsible for the violent disappearances and deaths that led to the town's abandonment. But every time new evidence emerges, it's swiftly dismissed. In 2021, an expedition led by Baxter found massive footprints near the abandoned town. Despite photographic and physical evidence, officials have not acknowledged the findings. Are these reports being buried to avoid public panic? Of course, it's natural to be skeptical, but Dr. Jeff Meldrum emphasizes that while hoaxes exist, the sheer amount of reports and physical evidence cannot be so easily dismissed. He argues that until thorough field studies are conducted in regions like Portlock and the surrounding, undeveloped Alaskan wilderness, science simply cannot rule out the presence of an unidentified bipedal species. What do you think? Could something that ancient still be lurking in the Alaskan wilderness? Or is it simply fear and wild imagination shaping these stories? Let us know your theories in the comments below. Even today, only a select adventurous few would dare to visit Portlock. As part of my research, I visited the nearby Nanwalek village to speak with its residents. When I asked if anyone was willing to accompany me on a short expedition to Portlock, I was met with refusals left and right. Admittedly, even I wouldn't venture out there alone without any local assistance. But the stories I heard from every corner of that small town would shock even the most skeptical Sasquatch hunters. If these reports are true, then the implications are chilling. It means that Portlock wasn't abandoned by chance or by some cataclysmic event. It was fear, panic, and paranoia that drove residents away in the middle of the night. It's entirely possible that the first settlers of Portlock trespassed on something else's habitat and tried to claim it as their own. Official records claim the residents of Portlock left due to economic hardship, But decades of reported incidents involving an unknown predator, even mysterious deaths and disappearances, prove that there's more to this story. Some believe the authorities downplay these events, branding them as wildlife attacks and natural accidents to prevent panic. Every legend has its source and a level of truth behind it. The existence of Nantiinaq in the unexplored vastness of the native Alaskan wilderness is no exception. Dr. Jeff Meldrum warns that as humans push further into remote areas, encounters like these will only increase. He advocates for systematic, unbiased research to finally answer the question, what is lurking in the Alaskan wilderness? Meanwhile, Larry Beans Baxter believes the government knows more than they're telling us. We've seen tracks, we've heard the sounds. Something is still out there, and someone doesn't want us to know the truth. Could Officer Travis's incident report be another chapter in a much larger cover-up? And if so, what are they hiding in the abandoned corners of Alaska? Here's the thing. Official records claim Portlock was abandoned after the construction of Alaska Route 1, which prompted its people to move somewhere more accessible to mainland Alaska. Yet between 1900 and the 1950s, unexplained disappearances plagued the town. Hunters vanished without a trace. Loggers were found mutilated in ways no animal could manage. If it was just the economy, why did residents leave everything behind in the middle of the night? It just doesn't make sense. If local authorities knew something else was out there, something they couldn't explain without causing mass panic, maybe maintaining the Nantiinaq legend as folklore was a convenient way to keep people from asking around. Think about it. If the Nantiinaq legend is just a story, why have official records related to the Portlock disappearances quietly vanished without a trace from public archives? Why did federal investigators dismiss Officer Travis's case as a bear attack when the tracks found were twice the size of an adult human footprint? And most tellingly, why did the Forest Service stop logging reports from Portlock entirely after 1950, around the time the town was suddenly abandoned? Maybe the truth wasn't convenient and someone wanted it buried. What do you think? Could there be more to these unexplained disappearances than meets the eye? If you've had a strange encounter near Portlock or anywhere else, we want to hear your story. Email us at monstermythtv@gmail.com and your encounter could be featured on an upcoming episode. Until next time, stay curious and keep your eyes open. In the wilds of Alaska, the legend of Nantiinaq endures, waiting to be unveiled in the great expanse of parks unseen.